On the night of May 3rd, 2007, in a quiet Portuguese resort, a 3-year-old girl vanished from her bedroom without a trace. No witnesses, no clear motive, no confirmed suspect. What followed became the most heavily reported missing child case in modern history, a mystery that refused to stay buried, twisting through false leads, global media frenzy, and a suspect list that kept changing shape. This is the story of a disappearance that shook the world, and a question that still haunts millions. How does a child vanish from a locked apartment and never be seen again? Welcome to Shadow Tales. On the evening of May 3rd, 2007, the Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz glowed like any other quiet holiday destination. Families lingered by the pool, waiters cleared plates from the tapas bar, and children drifted off to sleep in their apartments as the sun dipped below the Atlantic horizon. Inside apartment 5A, 3-year-old Madeleine McCann had just been tucked into her small bed, her favorite toy resting beside her. Her parents, Doctors Kate and Jerry McCann, stepped out for dinner at the resort's tapas restaurant less than a minute's walk away. They believed, truly believed, that their children were safe. Every half hour, they would return to check on them, a nightly routine they had followed the entire week. But on this night, something felt different. Just after 9:05 p.m., Jerry made the first check. Everything appeared normal, the twins asleep, Madeleine lying peacefully. Yet he later recalled the bedroom door being slightly more open than he had left it, a detail that would haunt investigators for years. At 9:30, another family friend peeked in through the apartment door. Again, nothing seemed out of place. The children were quiet, the night was calm. But somewhere between that moment and 10 p.m., the timeline began to unravel when Kate McCann walked back. Kay alone for the next check. She sensed something was wrong before she reached the bedroom. The door, that bedroom door, was open wide. She pushed it gently. A cold draft met her face. The window was open, the shutters raised, and Madeleine's small bed was empty. Kate screamed, a scream neighbors still remember. "Madeleine's gone! Someone's taken her!" Within minutes, the resort descended into chaos. Staff ran through corridors. Tourists grabbed flashlights and canvassed the dark streets. Police were called, but confusion slowed everything. Valuable minutes slipped away. Those first moments, the ones investigators always say matter the most, were disorganized, frantic, and devastatingly uncontrolled. In the hours that followed, witnesses reported strange sightings. A man carrying a sleeping child toward the road. Another figure emerging from a side street, head down, moving quickly. A car driving away from the resort at unusual speed. But with every retelling, descriptions changed, details blurred, and the truth became harder to grasp. By sunrise, the search extended across the village, into the surrounding fields, and along the rocky shoreline. Helicopters hovered above Praia da Luz. Volunteers dug through brush and rubble, but there was nothing. Not a footprint, not a scrap of clothing, not a trace that Madeleine had ever left the apartment. It was as if the night had swallowed her whole. The McCann's world collapsed in a single hour, and what began as a family holiday transformed into one of the most mysterious disappearances in modern history. But the question is, if Madeleine was taken, how did the abductor slip in and out of 5A without leaving a single detectable trace behind? By dawn on May 4th, 2007, Praia da Luz no longer felt like a holiday town. Police officers lined the resort pathways, journalists began gathering outside the Ocean Club, and locals whispered about the British girl who vanished in the night. But behind the scenes, the investigation was already slipping through the cracks. The first officers on scene were not specialists in missing children. They treated apartment 5A as if Madeleine had simply wandered off. The window was wiped, the shutters were handled, strangers walked in and out, guests trampled the ground outside. The crime scene, the last place Madeleine was seen alive, was contaminated beyond repair. Police did not immediately block the roads out of town. They did not seal the border. No Amber Alert was issued. And in those early fragile hours, if someone had taken Madeleine, they now had a 7-hour head start in any direction. Witness statements began piling up too fast for detectives to organize. A woman had seen a man holding a child on the street around 10 p.m. Another guest reported a suspicious figure lingering near the apartment the day before. A British tourist mentioned hearing a van door slam around 9:45 p.m. Each report pointed in a different direction, and investigators couldn't decide which mattered most. Meanwhile, the Portuguese police believed in a simple principle. If a child disappears, the explanation is usually close to home. Almost immediately, suspicion turned toward the parents. Journalists caught Kate McCann staring blankly into cameras, holding Madeleine's small pink toy. Her composure, or lack of it, became public debate. Jerry's clipped tone in interviews fueled even more scrutiny, and as pressure mounted, detectives began framing theories based on emotion, not evidence. Months passed. Posters of Madeleine faded under the sun. Tourists returned to Praia da Luz. WS outlets moved on to other stories, but investigators were sinking deeper into confusion. They chased countless false leads: a sighting in Morocco, a blonde child in Spain, a mistaken identity on a ferry. Every tip brought hope. Then, disappointment. Inside the police station, fatigue turned into frustration, and frustration soon hardened into a dangerous belief. If we cannot find the abductor, maybe there wasn't one. This shift fractured the investigation in half. British detectives insisted Madeleine had been kidnapped. Portuguese authorities increasingly believed the answer lay inside apartment 5A. The two teams stopped cooperating. Files went unopened. Evidence sat unanalyzed. Key interviews were rushed or never conducted at all. Meanwhile, the McCanns, desperate and exhausted, launched their own campaign, hiring private investigators and speaking publicly to keep Madeleine's name alive. But with every newspaper headline, the story became less about finding a missing child, and more about blame, conflict, and speculation. By the end of the summer, one chilling question lingered over Praia da Luz. Was the truth getting closer, or slipping further away with every passing day? As the weeks turned into months, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann became less of a missing child investigation, and more of a maze of conflicting theories. Every suspect, every shadow, every rumor became a new pathway, and each one seemed to lead nowhere. But the public didn't see the confusion behind closed doors. They only saw headlines. And with every headline came a new theory, some grounded in evidence, most born from desperation. The stranger in the night, it began with the sighting. A British tourist, Jane Tanner, claimed she saw a man crossing the street around 9:15 p.m., carrying a small child dressed in light-colored pajamas. The description was hauntingly vague: tall, slim, dark hair, child barefoot, carried like a sleeping doll. He became known as the Tanner Man, the first real suspect in the case. For months, police searched for him. Sketch artists pieced together a face. Journalists called him the abductor. Entire TV segments were built around the mystery man carrying the limp child under the streetlight. But years later, he was identified as nothing more than a tourist carrying his own daughter back from the creche. A lead that once drove the investigation forward simply evaporated. If that man wasn't the kidnapper, then who was? The man in the alley, another witness, an Irish family walking home around 10 p.m., reported seeing a man carrying a child toward the beach. Their account was more detailed, and they noted something unsettling: the man's posture, the way he avoided streetlights, how the child seemed unconscious or dazed. But this sighting was buried for months, overshadowed by the Tanner sighting. When detectives finally examined it seriously, too much time had passed. The family couldn't be sure. Details faded. The trail went cold. Another suspect lost to time. The break-in theory. Forensic teams later examined the apartment window, the one Kate McCann claimed was open. No fingerprints, no footprints, no sign of forced entry. Some investigators said that proved no one had come through the window. Others said it proved the intruder wore gloves and knew exactly what he was doing. The window became a battlefield of interpretation. To this day, no expert can say with certainty whether it was used or not. The predator theory. Around the same period, several families staying nearby reported attempted break-ins, suspicious men watching children by the pool, and unknown figures wandering the resort at night. Police linked these incidents to a possible child trafficker or predator ring operating in the Algarve. British profilers agreed. This case resembled organized abduction more than a spontaneous crime. But once again, no concrete suspect ever emerged. The idea remained a theory, a shadow without a face, the controversial theory. By late summer, the investigation took a sharp and deeply divisive turn. The McCanns themselves became suspects. Portuguese police believe Madeleine's death might have been accidental, and her disappearance staged to look like an abduction. Dogs trained to detect blood and human remains alerted inside the apartment and inside the McCann's rental car. The public was stunned. Media coverage became brutal. Supporters and critics clashed daily, but the scientific analysis of the samples was inconclusive. There was no proven evidence of foul play by the parents. After months of pressure, the forensic claims collapsed, and the McCanns were cleared. But the damage was done. Theories now outnumbered facts. Suspects now outnumbered witnesses. And somewhere beneath the noise, the truth remained buried. As detectives struggled to regain control, one haunting question lingered. Were they pursuing answers or chasing shadows? By the end of the first year, Madeleine McCann's disappearance had stretched far beyond the quiet resort of Praia da Luz. It had become a global mystery, one fueled by fear, confusion, and a desperate hope that she might still be alive. Police forces from Portugal, the UK, Basim, and Interpol searched endlessly. But with every new lead, every supposed breakthrough, came another dead end. The world watched as the investigation twisted deeper into uncertainty. And the more people searched, the more the truth seemed to slip away. The phantom sightings, the first wave of global leads, came from ordinary people, travelers, tourists, and strangers who believed they had seen a little blonde girl matching Madeleine's description. Egypt, Morocco, Belgium, Canada, New Zealand. Even a woman in Brazil claimed she saw a child with the same distinct eye mark. Some sightings seemed convincing. Others were little more than hopeful illusions. One photo, taken in a Moroccan marketplace, showed a small, fair-haired girl being carried on a woman's back. Newspapers exploded with headlines. Investigators rushed to analyze the image. Within 24 hours, the girl was identified. She wasn't Madeleine. She was a local child with similar features, and another lead dissolved into nothing. The phone calls and confessions, then came the confessions. Over a dozen men across Europe claimed responsibility for abducting Madeleine. Some were mentally ill, some were seeking attention, some were already imprisoned and saw an opportunity to stir chaos. Every confession consumed precious time and resources. Each one forced detectives to retrace steps, cross-check timelines, and revisit discarded evidence. And every single one turned out to be false. The false confessors didn't just distract the police. They contaminated the narrative, pushed investigators in the wrong direction, and created a fog that grew thicker with every passing week. The car sightings, drivers along major highways reported seeing a woman pushing a crying girl into the back of a vehicle. Others described pale children being driven through border checkpoints at night. None of these claims were confirmed. But the possibility that Madeleine had been moved quickly, perhaps across multiple borders, created a chilling realization. If she had been abducted by professionals, she could be anywhere. The mysterious boats. Several fishermen reported unusual activity along the coastline the night Madeleine disappeared. Small boats with their lights off, moving in and out of the harbor. One witness claimed he saw a man carrying a bundle toward the marina. Investigators followed the lead for months, tracking missing vessels, interviewing sailors, and checking port records. Nothing. Another dead end. The shutdown of the original investigation. In 2008, after endless pressure, political strain, and mounting frustration, Portuguese authorities made a stunning decision. They closed the case. Thousands of documents, hundreds of interviews, dozens of suspects, and not a single confirmed answer. Madeleine McCann was still missing. The last person to see her was still unknown, and the truth was still buried beneath years of confusion. But the case wasn't dead, because the McCanns refused to let it die. They hired private investigators, former detectives, criminal profilers, technology experts, a new team, a new strategy, a new belief. Cesar. Someone out there knew exactly what happened. As the global hunt restarted, another question began to take shape, one that investigators whispered behind closed doors. Were they chasing a kidnapper or chasing a ghost story the world had built from fear? For most missing children, the trail goes cold within days. For Madeleine McCann, it never did. 15 years after she vanished from apartment 5A, the world had changed, but her absence still hovered like a ghost over Praia da Luz. The resort was renovated, the tapas bar closed, new families vacationed there, unaware of the nightmare that once unfolded inside those quiet white walls. But investigators never stopped looking. Journalists never stopped asking questions. And the public, despite fatigue and controversy, never stopped searching for answers. Because Madeleine's case wasn't just a disappearance. It had become a symbol of hope, of fear, and of everything we still don't understand about the darkest corners of human behavior. The case is reopened. In 2011, the UK launched Operation Grange, a fresh investigation that began by re-examining every statement, every timestamp, every witness, and every photograph taken the night Madeleine vanished. A new team, new detectives, new eyes. Their conclusion shocked both nations. The original investigation had been deeply flawed. Critical leads were never followed. Witnesses were dismissed. Timelines didn't match. And some suspects had never been properly questioned. Detectives believed something had been missed, something vital. And as they sifted through a mountain of files, one detail began to emerge again and again. A man, a pattern, a predator who operated in the shadows. The mysterious suspect, in 20, German authorities revealed a name the world had never heard before. Christian Bruckner, a drifter with a long criminal record. He lived in Portugal at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. He had been linked to multiple break-ins near resorts. He had assaulted minors, and investigators claimed he made a disturbing confession to a friend. But the evidence was still circumstantial. No DNA, no eye. Witness placing him inside apartment 5A. No confirmed proof he had ever seen Madeleine. Yet prosecutors were confident, almost certain. "We believe he killed Madeleine McCann," they said. The world paused. After 15 years, was this finally the truth? Or just another shadow mistaken for a suspect? The weight of time. As the years passed, Madeleine's face changed in official age progression photos. First a child, then a preteen, then a young woman. And with every new image, the ache deepened. Who would she be now? What would she look like? Did she remember anything at all? No case in modern history had received such relentless attention. And yet, the thing everyone wanted, a single confirmed fact, remained out of reach. Even today, investigators describe the McCann file as too many theories, not enough truth. Was she taken by a stranger, sold, hidden, killed the same night, or kept alive for years? Every answer leads to another question. Every breakthrough leads to another wall. The enduring mystery. 15 years later, one fact remains unchanged. No body, no weapon, no confession, no proof of life, and no proof of death. Just a 3-year-old girl who vanished into the night, leaving behind a bedroom window that may or may not have been disturbed. A timeline that still puzzles investigators, and a mystery that refuses to let go. Thousands of missing children are forgotten with time. Madeleine was not. Her disappearance sparked one of the largest investigations in world history. It forced police, governments, and entire communities to confront unsettling possibilities. It reshaped how the media handles missing children, and it left a question hanging in the air. A question that still chills those who dare to explore this case. How can a child vanish in a world filled with cameras and leave no trace at all? Some mysteries fade with time. This one only grows sharper. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann exposed broken systems, media chaos, and a world desperate for answers it may never receive. But one truth remains unchanged. Somewhere, someone knows what happened that night. If you've been watching Shadow Tales, subscribe for more stories that stay in the dark long after they're told. And tell us in the comments, what do you believe happened to Madeleine McCann? Abduction, accident, or something no theory has uncovered yet? The case is still open. The shadows are still waiting.